write down first point, right? First, you can draw a box, and within the box you can write down self-confidence and positive mindset. Within the first box, මේ මම කියන එකේ flow එකක් විදිහට ඇඳ ගන්න. arrows පාවිච්චි කරලා diagram එකක් වගේ flow එකක් විදිහට එකින් එක එකකට පස්සේ එකක් යනවා වගේ වෙන draw diagram, right? So in the first box, right? In the first box, write down self-confidence and positive mindset. Right? Then put a small arrow. Then draw another box. In the second box, within the second box, put a write down accept challenges. Accept challenges. And perform under challenges. Accept challenges and perform under challenges. Write down those things within the second box. Right? Don't write down the point that I'm telling now, but I have explained with it. Within the first box, you have written self-confidence and positive thinking. So that means if a person has positive thinking and the self-confidence, then it leads to accept challenges and perform under challenges. That is the meaning of this, right? Then after the second box, again put a small arrow. Right, okay. Then within the third box, draw another box, write down supporting to achieve competitive advantages. Supporting to achieve competitive advantages through introducing new things. Things in the sense with the new approaches, right? New products, new strategies, right? New KPIs, okay? New processes, new things. Then again put a small arrow. Then draw the last box, right? That means the fourth box. Within the fourth box, write down supporting to maximize the profit. Supposed to maximize the profit. Right, okay. So then below the diagram or above the diagram, write down to the strategic importance of, it can be diagram making meaning, right? Strategic importance of Strategic importance of performing under challenges. Strategic importance of performing under challenges. Right? Okay. So then for that, here, like in the first books, you all have written self-confidence and positive mindset, right? That means if a person has a positive mindset and the self-confidence, then he or she accepts challenges and starts to perform under challenges, right? If he or she doesn't have a positive mindset or self-confidence, they never start and they never accept challenges. They don't begin to accept challenges, right? So then when they have a positive mindset and the self-confidence, they accept challenges, then they start to perform under challenges, right? Then in the third box, you all have written something as supporting to achieve competitive advantages. So when they accept challenges, they support the organization to achieve competitive advantages, because if they avoid challenges, if they disregard challenges, right? If they face challenges, I mean, like, when it comes to the challenges, if leaders, I mean, like, imagine something like they are not accepting them today, right? So then what will happen? The organization cannot achieve competitive advantages. But the opposite of that is, if the leaders are accepting challenges and if they perform under challenges without showing any resistance, right? Then through that, they can introduce new things to the market, new things to the company, right? Then those new things, it can be a new approach, it can be a new approach in the sense with a new way of doing an operation or a job or a task, right? New product, it can be a new market, sometimes it can be a new strategy, sometimes it can be a new objective, right? So then that particular thing will support the organization, maximize organization's profit. Right? That is the relationship. ඔය කිසිම දෙයක් වෙන්නේ නැහැ පුතේ. මිනිස්සු accept කරන්නේ නැති වුණොත් challenges. එතකොට ඒගොල්ලෝ avoid කරනකොට challenges වලදී they are getting failed in the challenges, right? So then the organizations cannot achieve competitive advantages. So they cannot contribute to the organizational ultimate objective, that is profit maximization, right? So this is so important, right? Because when it comes to the practical scenario also, if a leader is not performing, if the person is not accepting challenges, if he or she is always saying, no, I cannot, right? Then the organizational top management is think twice, right? Is thinking twice whether they are going to retain that particular person or not, right? So that is there. So then here, this slide shows you some strategies that leaders can use to build a confidence and positive thinking. Some podi strategies ටිකක් පුතේ leaders ට පාවිච්චි කරගන්න පුළුවන් ඒගොල්ලන්ගේ self confidence එක build කරගන්න සහ positive thinking වලට යන්න. Right? The first one is set clear and achievable goals. This is so important පුතේ. Leaders, when we are setting or when we set objectives for the departments, for the individuals, for yourself, for the personal goals, we need to be really careful. If those objectives, if those targets are not clear, not realistic, then what will happen? We will get demotivated. The individuals will get demotivated, right? So it's really, really important to have clear and achievable goals. right? So then one strategy for it, right? When we know that this objective is feasible, viable, yes, we can achieve it, it's realistic, then we get motivated, right? Our self-confidence level, our positive thinking will enhance, right? Then the second strategy is practice self-awareness. That means we need to understand our own weaknesses, our strengths, right? So when we know our strengths, right, definitely it will create a positive impact on our life. Like it will support us to, and definitely it will support us to build self-confidence and the positive thinking. Same thing, if we realize, if we recognize our weaknesses, then quickly we can take necessary actions to overcome those weaknesses. Sometimes we can convert weaknesses into strengths. Then it becomes, like then our self-confidence level also will increase and positive thinking also will increase. So the weaknesses අපේ ජීවිතේ පුළුවන් තරම් weaknesses ටික අඩු වෙනකොට පුතේ perfect මිනිස්සු නෑ. Yeah, not discussing about something called perfectionism, right? So when we recognize our weaknesses and when we are taking necessary actions to reduce them, right? Then automatically our self-confidence level and the positive thinking also will increase with it. Because then our strengths are like gradually increasing, right? Then positive self-talk. I guess some of you all are practicing this strategy. Right? But the thing is, we need to engage with a positive self-talk. Not a negative self-talk, positive self-talk. අපි අපිටම කතා කරනවා positive දේවල් ගැන පුතේ. Right? මේක කොහොම හරි කරනවා. Anyhow, I will manage this. I will handle this. I will do this. I will achieve the success. Right? Talking to yourself in a positive way. Right? Read other things. You can understand them with it. Surround ourselves with positive influences. Right? That means be with the positive vibe with it, right? When we are with negative vibe, okay, or when we are with negative influences, our mindset also with it getting shifted from positive thinking to negative thinking can be happen, right? So it also depends on the personality, right? But there's an effect. Then take care of physical health. That is so important, right? When we are not physically, when our physical health is not good, not only our physical health, our relatives, our close ones' physical health is not good for them, our mindset also not good, right? So if we want to have good confidence level, if we want to view things in positive way, we need to have a good physical health, right? As well as we need to support our close ones also to maintain or take care of their physical health, right? When everyone are physically good with it, then it provides us a kind of a motivation, right? Then continuous learning and skill development, step out from comfortable zone, right? If we are going to, or if we strict to the comfort zone for them, right? We never accept challenges and we don't rely on, our self-reliance also not get increased with it, right? So when we take steps out from the comfort zone, right? So we know, like, in order to take a step out of or out from the comfort zone, definitely, but then we need to build our self-confidence. Then automatically we try to build our self-confidence, right? Then practice gratitude. We need to be grateful for the things that we have, right? Rather than worrying on the things that we don't have, right? We need to grateful for the things that we have, right? Then there are like another 4 inputs you can understand. When we are living in the moment, right? When our mindfulness is really high, then again it supports us to maintain good level of confidence and positive thinking, because when we have a good mindfulness, right? So when we are concentrating on things, our accuracy rate, our effectiveness also will increase with it, will improve, right? Then it also creates positive impacts on self-confidence, building self-confidence. right? මොකද එතකොට පුතේ අපේ ඇති වැරදි වෙන්නේ නැහැ වැඩි. අපි concentrate කරගෙන තමයි වැඩේ කරන්නේ. එතකොට අපේ focus එක තියෙන්නේ දේටනේ. එතකොට අපේ ඇති වැඩි වැරදි වෙන්නේ. වැරදි වෙන්නේ නැති වෙනකොට අනිත් අය අපිව believe කරන නිසා අපි අපවම believe කරනවා. Right? So then it creates positive impacts on self-confidence. And try to always maintain a positive environment. Right? Always try to have positive thoughts, right? So that is very important. Right? There are like some cultures with it. Don't know whether you know this or not, right? There are like some cultures with it. When they are having their meals, it can be breakfast, it can be dinner, it can be lunch. They avoid discussing negative things because with it, they have water on the table, right? Glass of water or the water bottles, right? So those water, right? I mean, we can have different forms of, not forms of water. So it can be in the glass, it can be sometimes in glass bottles, or it can be sometimes in plastic water bottles, sometimes it can be in jars, right? So anyhow, right? So water we can find on the table. So then when we are discussing negative things, right? So they believe that, so then this water absorbs them, right? Negative thoughts. Then when we are drinking those water, right? So negative thoughts will go to the inside, I mean, will absorb by our cells also with it, right? So don't know whether it's true or not, right? I don't know whether it's scientifically proven or not, right? So, but there are some cultures with it, they avoid discussing negative things within their main meals, right? මොකද අර ඒ කියන්නේ නෙගටිව් දේවල් කතා කරාම මේගොල්ලෝ හිතන්නේ පොතේ දැන් මේසු වල වතුර තියෙනවානේ. එතකොට ඒ වතුර වලට ඒ නෙගටිවිටි එක ඇබ්සෝබ් වෙනවා. එතකොට ඒ වතුර අපි බොනකොට අපේ ඇඟට නෙගටිවිටි එක යනවා. So නිසා they that much concerned. Right? Okay. So then what you can do, so from this list put there, write down any 5 points which you feel easy to recall for the examination can be tested. Write down a subtopic, strategies that leaders can use to build self-confidence, positive thinking. Right? Strategies that leaders can use to build self-confidence and positive thinking. Okay. Now, Putty, I will show you the slide again. This slide, so there are altogether 12 points there. Write down any 5 points which you feel easy to recall. And put a remark for the examination can be tested. These are really practical things, right? Don't write down the first 5, right? First read all these 12 points. And then try to write down any 5 points which you feel easy to recall. If you go through the past papers quickly, you can understand. I have tested these strategies in almost, I cannot exactly tell, but I guess in all the past papers, but I have tested this, right? So there's a high possibility of testing this area also in your paper as well. I will give you 1 minute, just complete writing. Then I will show you some practical tips that we can use to proceed with these strategies. Meantime, if you want to clarify anything, just ask from me. Right, okay. Let me take you to the next slide. It shows you there, like it explains some practical things that we can apply to build self-confidence and positive thinking, right? So if we consider, like daily, we can exercise, we can meditate, right? අපි physically fit වෙන්න, අපේ physical health එක හොඳට maintain කරන්න, in order to maintain the mindfulness, we can engage with exercises and meditation, some practical things, right? Then, because here we have discussed about it, we need to practice mindfulness, we need to take care of physical health. So this slide explains how we can practically engage with those strategies, right? So then weekly wise, we can review our targets, right? Then we can get motivated, right? If we are not complying with the expected results, then we can take necessary actions to increase our performances, right? So then challenge ourselves with new tasks. සතියකට එක task එකක් අපි අපිට පොඩක් අමාරු දෙයක් දාගෙන බලනවා how we are handling it, right? So without being in the comfort zone, right? We try to take one step out of the comfortable zone, with the comfort zone, right? Then monthly wise also we can do different things, right? We can sometimes keep a goal, right? Each month, at least I'm gaining a new skill, right? I'm learning something new. Okay. So in that way, we can keep some targets monthly. Okay, then we can evaluate our achievements monthly and we can appreciate ourselves, right? So when there are like performance gaps also, that means if there are some negative performance gaps, right? Without getting frustrated, so we can take necessary actions to move from that particular negative performance gap, right? We need to think about how to become a resilient person, right? Okay. Then for the examination, I don't is right. That is for your information. Okay, we have discussed this question. Here, what I have done, right? So in this slide, we have discussed certain strategies. Here we have discussed some strategies that leaders can use to build self-confidence and positive thinking, right? Here, what I have done, I have categorized those strategies into 4, right? I have categorized some strategies as mental strategies, right? Then I have categorized some strategies as practical actions. Then self-care practices and mindset maintenance. Okay. So then if we consider the what you call the examination, right? Imagine within the examination, I'm asking you to write down Let me give you the question. So imagine that in the examination, you can find a question, something like this. Briefly explain 3 mental strategies that leaders can use to build self-confidence and positive mindset to face challenges. Right? Briefly explain 3 mental strategies. That's කලින් slide එකේ මම මේකෙන් පොදුවේ අහනවා නම්, right? If I'm asking commonly put it, then I'm not highlighting mental strategies or the practical actions. I'm asking briefly explain 3 strategies that leaders can use to build self-confidence and positive thinking. I don't highlight whether it's like mental strategies or the practical actions or self-care practices. No. But in the examination, එහෙම මම මොකකටවත් කැටගරයිස් කරන්න නැත්නම් highlight කරන්න නැත්නම් මොකම පොදුවේ නම් අහන්නේ what are the strategies or the briefly explain strategies that leaders can use to build self-confidence and positive thinking? You can write down any of this point, right? Any of these 3, any of these points, right? Any 3 points. But today, in the examination, if I specifically ask you to write down 3 mental strategies that leaders can use to build self-confidence and positive mindset to face challenges, then for that you need to write down 3 mental strategies, right? Then you need to write down any 3 from the mental strategies. You can write down positive self-talk, visualization, building a growth mindset, focusing on strengths, right? Those are some mental strategies that we can use to build self-confidence and the positive mindset. Then in that way, I have written another 4 strategies for the practical actions, another 4 for the self-care practices, another 4 for the mindset maintenance. So now what you can do is, you don't need to write down the title again. From this 2 slides, from these 2 slides, write down 2 mental strategies, 2 practical actions, 2 self-care practices, and 2 mindset maintenance strategies that leaders can use to build self-confidence and positive mindset to face challenges. Right? මේ හැම එකෙම පුතේ දෙක ගන්න ලියාගන්න. මොකද exam එකේදී මම අහනවා නම් mental strategies ලියන්න කියලා. You need to write down mental strategies. If I'm asking you to write down practical actions that leaders can use to build self-confidence and positive mindset or the positive thinking, you should exactly write down practical actions. If you are writing mental strategies, then you don't get any mark. Right? So you need to be a little bit careful here. Right? So write down any 2 from this mental strategy or the mental strategies. Then write down 2 from practical actions. Then I will show you the next slide, the next 2 categories. And with especially, you should be able to explain, right, how these strategies help or support the leaders to build self-confidence and positive mindset. That is the important part with it. No point of like just explaining what is meant by positive self-talking, no with it, right? So in the exam also, when you are like, imagine the question is, briefly explain two mental strategies that leaders can use to build self-confidence and positive mindset to face challenges. Then for the imagine you're writing about positive self-talk, right? Then you can write down positive self-talk. Imagine for the mark allocation is 6 marks, right? එතන කරුණු 3ට මම ලකුණු 6ක් දෙනවා. එතන එක point එකකට 2 marks, right? So then when you're writing positive self-talking, right? For that point, I'm giving you 1 mark. You have identified the strategy in it, so 1 mark for that. Then I'm allocating the remaining mark for the explanation, right? 2 mark per strategy. Then in the explanation for the, it's okay to write down what is positive self-talking, but importantly, Pute, you need to explain how this positive self-talk supports the leaders to build self-confidence and the positive mindset. Right? When we are positively talking to ourselves, Pute, right? Our mindset also like become positive, right? So we are also getting ready to accept challenges. We are like getting confident, right? So you need to explain it with it, right? So when we are positively talking, our mindset is getting filled with positive thoughts. When our mindset is with the positive talks, it supports us to build our self-confidence and the positive thinking or the positive mindset, right? In that way, you need to like briefly explain the way of supporting these strategies to build self-confidence and the positive mindset, right? Okay. Hope you all have written 2 points under mental strategies, 2 points under practical actions. Then Pute, write down another 2 from this slide also, another 2 points from self-care practices, another 2 points from the mindset maintenance. I will give you 1 minute, write down with it. Here also Pute, don't write down the first 2 points, right? First read all the 8 points and then write down any 2 points for each strategy. I mean, for each category. ඔළුවට යන්නේ නැතිව ලියාගන්න එපා. අපිට ගොඩක් ලාට ඔයගොල්ලෝ මේ වෙලේ ඔළුවට යන ඒවා තමයි. ඔය නිකන් ලේසියෙන් මතකෙ හිටින දේවල් තමයි විභාගෙට උනත් ඒ වෙලේ එක. ඔයගොල්ලෝ ලියද්දි ලේසියෙන් මතකෙට එන්නේ. That's ask you to write down the points which you feel easy to recall. Right, okay. Now Pute, here, this is more activity. Just take few minutes and write down 5 strategies. But the question is, how do you plan a usual office work, right? Working day in your day-to-day life. How do you plan unusual, right? Working day in your day-to-day life. 5 strategies or actions that you apply and plan in your office work. Write down any 5 with it. Itanwage usual working day, then write down how you manage the day with it. Right? So when it comes to an usual working day, with a work day, there are like plenty of things to be done with it, like plenty of things that we have to do. Some here, but they just focus on the office work, not the personal things, right? Office work, right? From 8 to 5, right? We have to do a lot. Sometimes, like we stay for long hours, but it's not till 5 o'clock, right? So then it's up to you. Like it's up to us to decide whether we are leaving at 5 or whether we are like staying office and complete the things and go, whether we are taking necessary actions to complete all the things within these 8 hours, right? That is up to us to decide. So anyhow, we have to do lots of things within unusual work in day. So write down some strategies that you practically use to plan your plan and usual work day. ඔෆිස් වැඩ plan කරනකොට ඔයා practically කරන දේවල්. Not to develop a plan පුතේ, to plan your office work, right? Planning your office work. I'm giving you time to actually engage with these activities putte. Again, the same thing, since we are meeting online, I cannot understand whether you all are actually doing or not. When you all are in the classroom, I can see at least you all are taking pencils and try to attempt all the activities. But in this situation, I cannot understand whether you all are doing or not. But for this, since I'm asking you all, requesting you to do this, so it's better to do this with it. Right? මේ තාත් ඉතින් ඔයාලා decide කරන්න කරනවද නැද්ද කියන එක. අඩුම ගන්න පුතේ මේ if you are not writing them, at least from your mind just think it. No need to write them. Right, okay. So, maybe with it, right? Then I'm not going to ask again the answers. It's not practically possible, right? So y'all have written some answers for this Nibode, right? At least y'all came up with some answers from your mind, right? Sometimes y'all may wrote, right? Y'all have written prioritizing work, right? Work prioritization. To maintaining or developing a to-do list and prioritizing the task according to the urgency, right? Based on the deadlines, right? Don't know whether you all have written or not. So I have the experience when I was asking this question in last, I mean, like during my last lectures with it, I got that answer, right? Kind of a common answer. Then you are writing uh, set some clear barriers between different commitments, right? So sometimes you are writing delegate the things when it is appropriate, when it is appropriate in the sense when it is possible, right? Sometimes you all have written use right resources, right? So in that way, you all have written some points. So here, one thing that I want to highlight here is when we are moving with, when we are going with challenges with it, when we have to work under challenges, right? As leaders, definitely with it, we need to use different strategies, right? One important thing is with it, we need to prioritize work, right? Work prioritization is really important in performing under challenges, right? Because as I clearly mentioned earlier, right? So when we perform as leaders, we have to like play multiple roles with it within the organization, right? In different situations, we have to play multiple roles. Sometimes we are negotiators, sometimes leaders are decision makers, sometimes leaders are mentors, right? So different roles and have to play multiple tasks as well, right? So then it's not easy, right? It's very complex and very critical. So in that case with it, when we need to handle these multiple tasks effectively, when we need to accept and move on with these challenges, we need to prioritize work, right? Work prioritization is very important, right? Then we need to use right resources also, right? If we are not using right resources, again, we cannot achieve the effectiveness, right? We cannot successfully complete or we cannot successfully face the challenges. Let me show you today. In this slide, you can see how we can prioritize works, right? First, we need to understand the targets, right? Identify the goals or the things that we have to complete within a period. So then we can prepare a to-do list, right? Then we can categorize the tasks that we have included in the to-do list based on the urgency and the importance, right? For an example with them, I will show you how we can prioritize tasks based on urgency and importance. Let me explain those, the last 3 points, and then I will take you to the relevant slide. There I will show you how we can prioritize tasks based on urgency and the importance, right? So we need to prioritize tasks by the deadlines in the sense, but it's again urgency. Then assess effort and impact. We need to assess the effort that we have to put into like complete the task as well as the impact of completing that task or impact of not completing the task. And we need to set clear priorities daily with it, right? We need to update the list. We need to update the priorities. right? So here, let me take you to show you how we can do this work prioritization. Uh, this is very practical thing, right? So in our usual working days today, usually we create a to-do list. ඒක සමහරට ඔයගොල්ලෝ ලියනවා වෙන්න පුළුවන්, සමහරට ඔළුවෙන් හදා ගන්නවා වෙන්න පුළුවන්. Right? Sorry. So then what we do in to-do list, we capture all the things that we have to complete within the day. Right? Within the period. Oh, that pending tasks. Then imagine within in the list, we have 12 tasks to be completed. Right? Within the day or within coming days. Then now within 8 hours time, you're pretty sure, right? So you cannot complete all those 12 tasks. Then you need to have a plan to complete them. Then you can prioritize them. Right? For the work prioritization, to manage the task, you can use this matrix with it. Right? In the slide, you can see there's something called Eisenhower matrix. Right? In Eisenhower matrix, what we do, we categorize the tasks, pending tasks, or the tasks to be done, the tasks that we have to complete based on the urgency and the importance. Right? That is true when it comes to our to-do list. There are certain tasks, those tasks are not urgent. Right? Not urgent, but strategically important. ඉක්මනට කරන්න ඕනේ නැහැ. හැබැයි මාරම impactful. Right? Strategically මාර වටිනවා. ඒ task එක. Then we can keep that task to decide or schedule later. Right? Then in the to-do list, there can be another set of tasks which are not urgent, right? Even not important. Urgent උත් නැහැ. හැබැයි ඇත්තටම කරන්න අත්‍යවශ්‍යතාවයකුත් නැහැ. Right? So then why we keep them in our to-do list? We can erase them, we can delete them. We don't need to engage with those types of tasks. No point of allocating time for those types of tasks. Right? Non-value added activities. Then, in the same to-do list, we can find some tasks which are urgent but not important. Right? Quickly we have to do with it. Deadline is so close, right? Sometimes it's within 4 hours. We have to complete the task. But importance-wise, it's not strategically important. Then, if we have subordinates, then we can delegate those tasks to our subordinates. Or the leaders can delegate those tasks to their subordinates. By when they're strategically important and urgent. Right? So in that case, leaders can delegate those tasks to their subordinates. The last category. In the same to-do list, there can be some tasks. Out of those 12 tasks, there can be some tasks with it urgent. Tasks really important, strategically important with it. Then, as leaders, we don't have any other option with it. As leaders, they don't have any other option. Okay, they have to definitely finish them. They have to do them by their selves, right? Then they have to prioritize those tasks first. මොනවා හරි task එකක් තියෙනවා නම් to-do list එකේ ඉක්මනටම කරන්න ඕනේ සහ strategically important. අපිට මුකුත් වෙනත් කරන්න යන්නේ නැහැ. අපිට ඒ ටික උඩටම ගන්න වෙනවා. prioritize කරගෙන ඉක්මනට ඉවර කරන්න වෙනවා. We have to do it. Right? So it's better to write down this write down a subtopic, work prioritization. Write down a subtopic, work prioritization. write down. Leaders can apply. Leaders can apply. Leaders can apply Eisenhower matrix. You can find the spellings from the slide. Eisenhower matrix. Leaders can apply Eisenhower matrix to manage the tasks. To manage the tasks and prioritize the tasks effectively. Manage the tasks and prioritize the tasks effectively. Then put there, write down first one, right? Under that, write down first one. First point, I will give you 4 points, right? For these 4 categories. Write down the first one. If the tasks are, it's something like this. If the tasks are urgent, and important. If the tasks are urgent and important. Put arrow. Then write down, put there, do. If the tasks are urgent and important. Then write down if the tasks are urgent, but not important. The second one. Right? So then put a small arrow and write down delegate. Use this format for it, right? As I have written it, typed it. Just use this format. The tasks are urgent. In that way, but write on other two also. So if the tasks are urgent and but not important, leaders can delegate them according to the Eisenhower matrix, right? Then third one, if the tasks are not urgent, but important. Sorry. Then leaders can schedule them later or decide later. Can write down schedule or decide. Let me write down it. Decide or schedule. Then you can write down the last one. If the tasks are not urgent and not important. Sorry, Bhavya. Then we can delete them. Write down this Bhavya. In this way, we can prioritize tasks. Readers can prioritize tasks. This is very practical thing with it. So if you are not currently practicing this, just practice with it. Definitely, this will give you results. And put a remark with it for the examination can be tested. This Eisenhower matrix can be tested in the examination. So, right, okay. Hope you all have written this, right? Now I'm taking you to the next slide. Sorry. Take 1 minute and try to come up with an answer for this. What is the most important skill that a leader needs to develop and maintain to handle multiple tasks? Within brackets, according to your point of view, according to your perception with it, right? What is the most important skill that a leader needs to develop or build and maintain to handle multiple tasks? Think. So you all will come up with different answers for this, right? Some of you all will tell time management, right? Work prioritization. Some of you will definitely, some of you will tell problem solving skill, right? Sometimes you all will tell critical thinking, right? In that way, you all will tell different answers. Okay. Here, you can see with this some skills, right? That we can use to handle and thrive with heavy workload. So as leaders with it, we need to accept that when we are performing as leaders, we have to handle a heavy workload, right? It's unavoidable with it, right? Unavoidable. So this work environment is really competitive, right? So then we don't have any other option, right? We need to handle heavy workload. So then we need to build and we need to maintain some skills in order to face and manage the heavy workload, right? One is time management. Then we need to have the ability to motivate ourselves, self-motivation. Then we need to have problem-solving skills. We need to sometimes quickly solve some problem. We cannot be with the problems. We cannot drag issues, right? We need to find very smart solutions quickly, right? Then we need to adapt to the technology. Adaptability and flexibility is so important to handle heavy workload. If we have a fixed mindset with it, right? If we don't like to change, then very hard, very difficult to manage heavy workload, right? Then we need to delegate correct tasks to the correct individuals. That is also an ability, right? Then we need to have the mindfulness, focus, and the concentration. We need to have good planning and organizing skills. We need to have good communication skills also, right? So if we have these skills, then we feel a little bit easy, little bit comfortable in handling heavy workloads, right? Okay. Then here with it, what I have done, I have highlighted when we are working as leaders, right? When we are performing as leaders, we have to handle multiple tasks, right? Again, it's an unavoidable fact there. Like we have to handle multiple tasks. Then we need to think, okay, so we have to accept that we need to handle multiple tasks. Then what are the strategies, what are the actions that we can take, that we can implement to handle multiple tasks effectively, right? So here what I have done, I have identified average 12 points, right? Around 12 points. And I have categorized them under three categories, right? Different strategies that leaders can use to handle multiple tasks effectively. One category is organizing strategy, organizing, right? සංවිධානය කරනවා කියන එක කියන්නේ පොතේ, right? Organizing strategies. And another strategy is delegation and collaboration, right? Delegating and collaboration strategies. And the last category is self-care and the stress management strategies. Because for there, definitely, we need to have good organizing strategies. We need to have good abilities in relation to delegation and collaboration. We need to have some strategies, right? And we need to have strategies to manage the stress as well when we have to handle multiple tasks. So then, if we consider organizing strategies with it, we can consider creating to-do list or the master list, work prioritization, break down large tasks into small tasks. If it is possible, we can use digital tools. Those are coming under organizing strategies. With the digital tools, if we can use digital tools, then it ensures the what you call speed and the effectiveness of our tasks, right? As well as we can easily track the progress of our performances that is there. In that way, Bhuti, I have written another 4 strategies under delegation and collaboration, as well as I have written another 4 strategies under self-care and stress management. All these strategies we can use to handle multiple tasks. In the examination, Bhuti, if I ask you to write down 4 strategies that leaders can use to handle multiple tasks, then you can write down any of these strategies. එතකොට මේ categorizations අදාළ නැහැ. මේ list එකේ තියෙන ඕන එකක් you can write down. But in the examination, if I specifically ask to write down 3 organizing strategies that leaders can use to handle multiple tasks, then for them, definitely you have to write down 3 organizing strategies. You cannot write down any other strategy which comes under delegation and collaboration or the self-care and stress management, right? So now write down a subtopic, strategies that leaders can use to handle multiple tasks. Okay, now Pute, from each category, write down 3 strategies, not 3, 2 sufficient, 2 strategies which you feel easy to recall. 2 organizing strategies, 2 delegation and collaboration strategies, and 2 self-care and stress management strategies. I will give you 2 minutes, write down. right? Okay, Pute. So, with this, I will complete the content for today, right? Because in the self-awareness and the personal SWOT analysis, Pute, we have to discuss some more content and it consumes more time, right? So, I don't think that within 10 minutes, because I have to allocate average 5 minutes for the attendance. So then I don't think that within 10 minutes time, I can complete the whole content related to self-awareness and the personal SWOT analysis. So in that case, I will take these 3 slides, right? Self-awareness, then personal SWOT analysis for the next week, right? Before starting next week's session. Next week, you don't have lectures. So, I mean, June first week, right? June first week, but I will first cover the content related to self-awareness and the personal SWOT analysis. Then I will start chapter number 4. Okay. So here with them, before conclude in this chapter 3 content for today, I need to highlight this also, Pute. These are some common managerial skills, right? In management also we learn when we have to perform as a manager, we need to build and maintain these 3 types of skills, right? Especially, Pute, if you are reaching, if you have a plan to reach highest level, right? In the organizational hierarchy, if you want to become a CEO, CFO, Chief Financial Officer, right? One of the GMs, general managers, right? You need to have good conceptual skills with it. You need to have good cognitive abilities, right? You need to have good decision making skills. You need to have average interpersonal or the human skills, as well as you need to have the technical skills. Technical skills in the sense, the knowledge that you have in relation to the relevant fields, right? If you have these skills with it, right, then you feel it's easy to handle heavy workload or the multiple tasks, right? If you are lacking in terms of these skills, if your cognitive abilities are not that much perfect or that much high, right? Then put it. So when you are like reaching highest position gradually, then you will get stress with it, right? So in order to avoid stressful situations, it's better to improve your cognitive abilities. You need to have critical thinking when you have to make a decision, right? In our day-to-day lives, but when it comes to the work organizations, usual working days, right? As leaders, but they need to make critical decisions, right? Sometimes they need to make critical decisions very quickly, right? Because they cannot allocate time for one decision, right? Then, in order to make the optimal, right? In order to make the optimal, prashastam, optimal decision, they need to have, leader needs to have good cognitive abilities, right? Conceptual skills. So it's a high time for that. Now you all are in third year, first semester. Some, like most of you all are working and some of you all are in highest position also already. So then you all need to build good cognitive abilities with especially critical thinking, right? Otherwise, there can be some instances, some situations you feel you are getting stress, right? In order to avoid stressful situations, it's better to build and maintain these skills, right? Okay. With this, let me take the attendance, right? Okay, let me share the QR code. Yes, but then now you all can scan the QR code for the attendance. Again, same message in the sense that I want to highlight this. If you cannot mark the attendance now itself, just inform me with it, then I can mark the attendance from my end. So don't send me emails or messages mentioning you were not there. I mean, like you couldn't mark the attendance, right? So if you cannot mark the attendance, just unmute your mic, at least drop a message to chat box. If your mic is not working, then I can mark the attendance, right? Later on, don't send me emails or the messages. Kind remind. එහෙම කාට හරි අපහසුතාවයක් තියෙනවා නම් පුතේ මාක් කරන්න බෑ නම් අකට ප්‍රශ්නයක් තියෙනවා මට දැම්ම කියන්න. එතකොට මේ වෙලෙම මට මගේ පැත්තේ මාක් කරන්න පුළුවන්. Hope all of you have marked the attendance, Pute, right? So then with this, is there anyone who couldn't mark the attendance? One last time. Right, okay, hope all of you have marked the attendance, Pute. So thank you for joining. See you all not next Sunday, right? June 7th. Stay safe and thank you for joining.
Thank you, madam.
Thank you very much, madam.
Thank you, madam.